Jam works. I still
It
use it a
did.
little bit.
Yeah,
It
it'll
will
come
lay them
back.
edges. And
It
you don't have all
does.
the look, ladies. You don't get caked up on the side or
Not
nothing.
not the
Jam like
edges.
all the edge control and stuff. Go
It's
get you
at
some
Walmart.
jam. Yeah, some jam, and it's cheap and it go a long way.
Look, how did this turn
J-
into a hair tutorial
right.
Jam
and a
sponsor us.
sponsorship? Yeah,
Yeah,
Jam can
Sponsor
jam,
us.
sponsor us.
please
Jam sponsor
sponsor
us.
us.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of Four Friends in a Book podcast. I'm Chris Colson, and I'm joined here with my friends Isaiah Toots, Kimberly Lake, and Laria Reed. And again, we are Four Friends in a Book. So if you're tuned in for the first time, if you're new to the channel, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together, and we meet here to review that book, to talk about current events, topics that may or may not relate to that book, and of course, at the end, we hit you guys with these rants. So if you haven't checked us out, go back, listen to some of our old episodes, just kind of get familiar with Four Friends in a Book. And yeah, give us some feedback. We always look for new book recommendations, new topics to discuss. So slide in our DMs, leave us a review, a comment. Look, even send us an email. We take it all. So we just want to hear from you
Mhm.
guys. And for those that have been supporting us from day one, we appreciate you
Mhm.
guys. Continue to stick with us here on Four Friends in a Book. So, all right, let's get into it. Four Friends in a Book. We read books over here. The book for this month, I always said, good selection again.
Mhm.
We're in the we're in the nonfiction category. So just kind of really just a true story, a
Mhm.
letter to a son, by none other than Mr. Ta-Nehisi Coates. The book for this month is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So, um, literally a letter to his son, to his young
Mhm.
son, where he kind of recaps his life, talks about his life experiences, his childhood, his upbringing, and really just try to give his son some advice as far as what he's been through and also how to better navigate this world. Um, Again, look, yeah, I know I'm a quote person. Found a quote that I feel like really kind of caps it off, so I want to read it and share it
Mhm.
with you guys. But so again, this is a letter to his son, and that's kind of the
Mhm.
format of the book. But the quote I found was, "I love you, and I love the world, and I love it more with every new inch I discover. But you are a black boy, and you must be responsible for your body in a way that other boys cannot know." So just really capturing the black experience, and how, as a black young man, how he may have to navigate this world a little different. And so
Mhm.
uh, Ta-Nehisi just really gives his life story, his upbringing, some lessons learned, and really try to convey those to his son in this book format, which is again essentially just a letter to his son, um, in the form of Between the World and Me. So let's get into it. Let's unpack it. Let's kind of hear from my friends here and get y'all thoughts and opinions about this book. So first
Mhm.
question, y'all already know what it is. Overall thoughts and opinions about this book, and if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it? And I'm gonna come to my good brother, Mr. Tukes, on this. I'm gonna let him kick this show off, man.
Yes.
What do you think about this book, Between the
Well,
World and Me?
okay. Well, the book Between the World and Me, like you stated earlier, Chris, is a man's advice, to a letter to his son, or just how to maneuver throughout the world. Even on the front cover of the book, Toni Morrison said it perfectly. This is a required reading. Everyone should read this book. I love this book for its honesty, its boldness. It was thoroughly used to explain the state of Black folk in America, but the explanation is not simple, and you can't ignore how everyone has played a role in it. In this book, I feel that his message is simple. Black folk have worked twice as hard, for half as much. And and we get used for our bodies, and that's just a never-ending struggle of how we have overcome to succeed in this culture where our skin color actually plays against us. And it does not matter if you have been brought up in the projects, the suburbs, the wealthy gated community, the struggle is all the same, and there will always be a trace of fear just below the surface. And Chris, you are also making me a quotes guy. I can't believe I'm doing this. But a quote that I actually like from the book is like, all my life I heard people tell their black boys and black girls to be twice as good, which to say except half as much. And these words should be spoken with a veneer of religious nobility, as though they are evidence of unspoken qualities, some undetected courage, and when in fact all the evidence was a gun to our heads and a hand in our pockets. And this is how we lose our softness, and this is how we steal our right to smile. I've actually read this book over 3 times, and without a doubt, I always leave this book with something differently. And I rate this book a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Look, man, you starting to show off strong, man.
He
Look,
kicked it off now.
He did.
Kick it off, brother.
powerful recap, powerful summary of the book, and starting off with a 10 rating. So, yeah, that was good, man. I appreciate your input and your thoughts about that. So, who want to go next? I think we come to Miss Laria Reed next. What are your thoughts about this book, and what you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, it was very realistic. It was very, it really gave the plight of the Black male, in my point of view, as a Black female, to a son. And I know that Black men have conversations with their children, especially their sons, about certain things. But for him to go into the detail that he did, I've got to be honest, I was depressed reading this book. It was just taking me, I was like, goodness. Like, it just sounded like he grew up in a war zone, because he was thinking about who's going to rob me, trying to, protect me. He kept talking about my body, like making sure that he was alive in his own neighborhood. It was like he should have PTSD for all of the worries and cares as a young man growing up. I mean, it was enough it was driving me crazy, all the different things that he was talking about. And while I do understand the struggle and I do understand everything that he spoke of, it was all true. It just wasn't, I'm one of those people that like to feel energy from the book and feel comforted. But this was like, good Lord, it's not letting up. But that's the Black experience for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I can't negate that part, because this is his truth. And what he's telling his son is the truth. So now I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. It's a good book, though. It's a very good book. For me, give it like a 6. Because it was just it took a lot out of me to keep listening over, because I did it on Audible, and it's an easy read. It's just, it was a lot. It was a lot for me to take in. So, and to continuously listen to. But once again, that's the plight of a lot of Black people in America. So, yeah.
I like that.
Okay, cool. So we got a 10 and a 6. All right, coming to Kim next. What are your thoughts about this book and what you rate it?
Okay. I thought that the book was pretty good. Like, I really did enjoy the book. I like the angle of a father, especially a Black father, talking to his Black son. And it was just an interesting listen. I heard it on Audible, so it made it personable hearing him say it. But I think it was just interesting because, as a Black female, I just have a different experience. So it was just interesting to hear like a male perspective and him passing like his advice and what his life lessons on to his son, so he can, navigate the world successfully. So I thought that was really good. I actually thought it was really like I believe he said he wrote poetry. So it was really poetic. Like the language of it was just very vivid and poetic. So I did enjoy that about the book. Like Laria said, it is like a heavy listen, because it's just real life. I like to read books to escape most of the time. So
Yeah.
so it was just like a real book. So I did
Mhm.
enjoy it. I would rate it a 7.5.
Look, they I go with these half scale ratings again.
I give it a
7.5.
7.5683.
So we have a 10, a 6, and a 7.5.
Um, so I actually read this book. I didn't go to Audible this time. It's a quick read, so if you guys definitely go pick the book up. It's a quick read. Didn't take too long at all, and I actually really enjoyed just kind of turning the pages. I really fell in love with the concept of this book.
Mhm.
Far too often, I think we as men don't really express ourselves, don't really communicate,
Mhm.
don't really tell our stories, and to the concept of a father given his life experience, his upbringings, lessons learned, and really putting it out on the table, talking about his love life, growing up in Baltimore, um, kind of matriculating through Howard, going to Howard University, which he calls the Mecca. Um, it was just really refreshing that he really
Mhm.
took the time to express himself in the form of a letter or really a book to his son, and just talk about the things that he experienced. His hardships growing up, him kind of finding a passion for reading and writing and research, and just everything that he's gone through was very refreshing to me. Considering, like I said, that a lot of times we as Black men don't
Mhm.
communicate, don't express ourselves. We kind of hold things in and kind of don't always convey our feelings, our thoughts, our experiences. So I really love the concept.
Mhm.
Really a good read. Um, as you guys mentioned, there are some hard parts about it. But like also been said, like there's just the experience that we have, and not all people, but just some of the
Mhm.
situations that life kind of puts us in, and especially as Black American, as Black men growing up in this country, like some things you will be exposed to, and even though his son may be growing up a little differently, to still prepare him for the what ifs or the possibilities of just what your skin color could present you with within this
Mhm.
country. I think was very inspiring, even for me. Like I said, I don't have any kids, but this would be something I would definitely want to um, take upon myself to really just share with my kids in the future. Just again, the experience that you go through, so that they don't have to go through them. They'll be well versed and aware
Mhm.
of just kind of life itself.
Mhm.
So, good read for me. I enjoyed it. Uh, Trying to think. So yeah,
Okay.
not a 10, my brother.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't. It was good. It was good.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it. I'm, I'm stuck between a 7 and an 8. So since y'all doing these half scales,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with a 7.5 also. So uh yeah.
Just say 7.
I mean y'all doing this, I'm gonna follow suit. All right. So again, we kind of talked about it and discussed it. This is really just a letter to his son, really conveying kind of life lessons, things that he's learned, Ta-Nehisi's just learned through his process of just development, growth as a man within this country. Like I say, he
Mhm.
touches on his childhood experience growing up in Baltimore, then going to Howard, getting into journalism, traveling, all kind of things that really just are kind of brought out through this book. So
Mhm.
um, really want to get you guys' thoughts and opinion on this because he really just again touches on his childhood and
Mhm.
experience that he's had. Did you find any, I guess, kind of parallels or even similarities that you identify with through his story that you can really relate to your own life story as you're reading this book, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates? And I'm gonna come to Laria on this question. What were your Did you find any parallels or similarities, or did you identify with anything within his story that really stuck out stood out to you as you were reading this book or listening to this book?
Okay, well, yeah. I think there's like a talk I think that a lot of Black parents have with their children that a lot of other races don't have to have. And I remember even being younger and hearing different stories from my parents or overhearing things that they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my friends wouldn't treat me like that. Like, what? Like, white people would do you like that? Like, I have white friends and they don't treat me like that. And for the majority of my life, I have had white friends who have not treated me any different than the Black friends that I had. But it was just so difficult for me to receive that until I got to, I'll never forget, I think I was in like first grade, and a little girl was like, "Do you put grease in your hair?" Black girls put grease in their hair. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, that was when we was using jam. If you're black, you're a black girl, you know what I'm talking about? We used to do the French rolls and all that. You had that spritz, had that jam. We used to have that's what we used to straighten our hair for Easter and all those different things. But yeah, we would have gel and stuff. And so I was like, well, yeah, because I need my hair to stay. And it was like, so when you wash it, I'll never forget, it was this girl. I didn't even know who she was. And I was just looking at her like, why are you asking me? It was like an interrogation on the playground about my hair. And I went home and was like, she kept asking me like about Black people and hair. So my mom was telling me the difference between white people hair and Black people, black hair. And, we had the whole talk. And then I think it was like that same year, this boy who I remember his name, I won't say it because,
put it out.
But he called me the N word. And it was for no reason. I was just sitting there. He was just like, well, I was in the class because it was like me and maybe 2 or 3 other Black people in the class. And, as soon as I heard that, I went straight to the teacher's desk. I was like, oh, you getting in trouble today. And the counselor came and talked to me. He was like, how do you feel about that? And are you okay? And, but look, I said all that to say that, that unwritten, the parallel of what he gave his son with preparing him. My parents had really kind of given me that talk, but in my mind, because I had never experienced anything, I didn't believe that it would really happen because I was still young, a child. So I really didn't, and I had seen all the civil rights stuff and everything, but I just didn't believe it would happen to me because I had such great people around me who happened to be white. So when it did happen, it was like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm just a little darker. Like, why are we doing this? So that's my whole spiel on that. But yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Hurt
And
my
like I said,
little feelings.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments where we kind of just kind of identify. Like I said, I think that is one similarity that we can all share as kind of just Black Americans growing up in this country. That there's probably some overlap as far as things that we've experienced that are probably common, whether good or bad. You talking about the jam in the hair. I'm pretty sure people can relate to that. So.
Yeah, jam works. I still use it a little bit.
Yeah,
it will lay them edges. You don't have all the look, ladies. You don't get caked up on the side or nothing.
Not the
jam,
edges.
like all the edge control and stuff. Go
It's
get you some
Walmart.
jam. Yeah, some jam, and it's cheap and it go a long way.
Look, how did this turn into a hair tutorial and
Jam
a
sponsor us.
sponsorship?
Yeah,
Jam
jam,
sponsor us.
please.
Jam
Sponsor us. Jam is the bomb. It really is. It's good.
Yeah. I think for me, as I was reading this book, I really identified with just kind of the process of growing and developing. Ta-Nehisi kind of talks about just growing up in the inner city, being a boy and just trying to survive in the neighborhood. And I think we all kind of, especially for boys and men, we kind of have the experience of trying to find ourselves and just trying to stay out of trouble. But it's always around you things that may kind of come up or situations that may kind of come up. And he really kind of touched on that. I think I really kind of found some similarities with that. Like, of course, I didn't grow up in the inner city. I'm a country boy from Mississippi, so I didn't have that experience. But just still trying to
Mhm.
navigate life. I mean, you knew certain areas to stay away from. You knew certain people that you really shouldn't associate with, and it's really trying to find that balance. Like you kind of wanted to be cool, but you knew that sometimes the cool stuff wasn't the cool stuff to do. So just really trying to find that balance. But also really his experience as far as going to college and kind of really finding himself and really fully developing himself. And so I kind of had a similar experience as well.
Mhm.
I was pretty well formed before I got to college, but it really kind of allowed me to really kind of stand in my truths and be more confident about myself, things that I knew to be true, and not to just be so, I guess, crowd oriented, just trying to fit in with the crowd or whatever. So I really identified and connected with that piece. You can really tell throughout this book, like him being at the Mecca, which he kind of refers to, it was really like some formidable years for him to really kind of help him develop and just kind of set a strong foundation for him and life and
Mhm.
experience. So I kind of really connected with those two pieces, just really growing up as a young boy into manhood, and also just really being in college and kind of fine tuning yourself were kind of areas that I really identified with, that he really kind of touched on through this book. Um, so, all right, coming to Kimberly Lake next. What did you have a moment or anything that you identified with as you were listening or reading this book from Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me?
When I was listening to it, like the most of the time when I was listening to the book, I was like, we're so different. Like he grew up different than me. Like I grew up in
Mhm.
church. He went to HBCU. It was just funny how like the whole book, it was kind of refreshing to hear a different person's life. But when he talked about that twice as hard, that's something that I have experienced. And when I heard that, it took me back to college. I won't say what college, but I remember being in a class. I won't say what class, but I'll tell Larry after because we took the same class. But I remember getting to class and one of the black girls that was older than me pulled me to the side and she was like, look, you see them white girls over there? Like, you can't just sit in this class and do nothing. Like, you better go out. You have to make news packages and you have to earn your grade. And I was just like, okay. So I went out, did packages, whatever. And do you know at the end of that class, them girls got like A's. I think I got a B, but they got A's. And then afterwards, I remember one of the girls talking. She was talking to the professor, and she was like, "Yeah, I was talking about you." I was like, Kim did like really good B work this semester. So I'm like, "Wait, like you give me my grade in college?" So I just
Wow.
remember that. Like that's one lesson I remembered about. Like you just have to, you do like work twice as hard, just to get somewhere.
Mhm.
So that was
That's very
something I
true.
related to him about.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
All right,
Looks is
coming
me.
Isaiah,
Look,
man.
that ain't right.
So coming Isaiah, man, like you had a powerful opening. So yeah, man, just following up on that. Did you find any parallels? Especially look, you done read the book 3 times. So did you identify with anything or have any parallels with your own life from reading this book?
Well, I did, but I first want to start off with that. I just like, I get excited about not just this book, but what we do as a culture of just bringing new ideas and different views and issues, and and just highlighting it from our own perspective. But from something I really identified with was his interaction with the police, and it's something that happened to me
Mm.
younger, but I didn't realize into what had happened till I got older about elitism and classism, and even amongst our black community. Like, I know when I was younger, I had got stopped by the police, me speeding, got a ticket. I'm like, Lord, this man, my dad finna kick me off his insurance. So I tried to pay. So I tried to go to court and pay it. Now, remind you, I'm 17 in high school, don't know what I'm doing, so I'm trying to Google and like all the facts of what's going on. But I went to court. This judge that I think he probably knew who my family was actually, dismissed the ticket basically said that, he knows somebody's up for re-election, basically try to get my family to support. And when you're younger, that's not communicating like what is he talking about? What did that mean? And and I'm trying to still hide this ticket, so I still didn't communicate that information to my, to my parents. But as I got older, I mean, like is he trying to, get the vote based on you're getting a ticket away from me, but you want my family to come and vote for you? But which is I thought what was crazy. But something I really identified with was in the book he talked about his friend Prince Jones and his interaction with the police officer. And with Prince, he basically grew up in a predominantly white environment and was afforded, some of the best perks in life. And he still succumbed to his injuries to the police. And Prince Jones, this cop actually followed him through jurisdictions through a county, I think in Maryland, called Prince George County, which is actually a predominantly black, county. And, where have we heard this story before? A black cop shoots a black person, on the road in broad daylight. We heard this story so many times, and just losing someone to injustice and unfairness is just too common, and I think even for some of us, we have already not just experienced, but we have known somebody who has experienced, a loss of life to the police officer. Even though Ta-Nehisi wrote this book like a long time ago, it still resonates within us all. Like, we can all identify with some aspects without the book that we can grasp a hold to. And I think even with this system, like we not should just allow it to change, but we should be making smaller steps forward to even put that change out there, for just a better environment, not just for us, but for the people and our children that'll come behind us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Most
that's a good
definitely.
point.
That's good.
That's a good point. Yeah, even you bringing up, Prince Jones, like, so we kind of talked about in our last episodes with, just, and it's been a continual, just a loss of life by police officers at the hands of police officers. And like I said, he's talking about an experience that he had a long time ago, and we're still having these same experiences now. We're still having these same issues, and it's just a continual cycle. And it's like, when will it stop? When will it end? I mean, even you talking about, you're getting a ticket from the police. Like, I remember literally being pulled over, no, not pulled over, but being stopped in my driveway. Like, I'm parked in my driveway, me and one of my friends, and being stopped by the police. And I'm sitting in my parents' house and like did nothing, no traffic violations, anything. And again, just these are some of the experiences that we have within this country for just being us, for doing nothing. And in this example, Prince lost his life, but like I said, it was for nothing. I mean, nothing. He did nothing wrong, but just a true testament of some of the experience that we have in this country as black men, as black people. And so, yeah, that's good. So we've kind of talked about it and kind of touched on it, and LaRue, you really kind of went into it a little bit in your previous discussion, but we were talking about kind of the black experience and kind of how it relates to what Ta-Nehisi talks about here in his book. But I guess a better question, or that I kind of want to expand on, would be like, when did you first become aware of like racial identity, or when did you really realize that was actually a thing? Like I said, in this book, he's really writing this letter to his son to kind of prepare him and also talk about some of his experiences. But kind of on a personal level between us, like, when did you first have that awareness? When did you come to that realization that like racial identity was a real thing for you and like just for people in general in this country? Miss Kimberly Lake, you wanna touch on this one?
Sure, why not? So okay, I grew up, but I was in the military. I grew up on an Air Force base in New Jersey. So that elementary schools I went to were like predominantly white. Like, it was maybe 2 or 3 black kids in the class. So from that age, I knew, I was like, okay, there's different. I knew I was different just from being in a predominantly white environment. And it was funny because then we went to a fully black church. It was then 4th grade, I moved to all black schools. So it was all kinds of things. But that's when I just remembered how I just knew I was different. I also remember playing outside on that base as a young child. And I just remember this incident. Me and my best friend were outside. We were all running around barefoot, all the kids. And like these 2 white boys were like, oh my God, And we're like, what? They were like your feet are white. And we're like, yes. And they like were like they could not believe like they didn't know black people had like white on their feet. And they went on about it for like a good 15 minutes. And I just remember that because I was like, it made me feel like I was in a zoo or something. Cause they're like, look, and they're like looking at it. So we ended up going home. But I just remember that incident being like, okay, I'm different. So that's one thing that sticks with me. But I just knew at a young age just because of the environment I was in.
Yeah. That's good.
Wow.
All right, coming back to my good brother Isaiah, did you have a moment, or when did you first realize kind of what, or become aware of like racial identity and what that was within this country, or just your experience of that?
The moment I became aware really was like the first election of Barack Obama. I think I was in like in college when that first happened back in '08. And growing up, not saying I lived in a bubble, but my parents would tell me stuff, but they didn't tell me, just things of the world, and protecting me from a lot of things that I thought I probably would need as I got older. But honestly, when I got to college, and basically when Barack Obama first got elected, I saw people in a different light based on the views that they used to stay on via social media. And some of the things that, and this was when I was even on Facebook. That was like, ooh, so long ago. I can't even remember back then. But that's when they were just saying like a lot of the ruthless things, and about this man, this black man that I saw that looked like me, very educated, well-spoken man, not just a regular black man, but he's now the president of the United States. And it was just the comments that it was saying, and I'm talking about people that I grew up with. These are the people that I basically played Little League with, and football and baseball and 4-H and Boy Scouts. And you saying these things, but they're saying like, no, man, we're talking about him and not you. But how can I, as a black man, not take this personal when I'm looking in the mirror and that's who I see, that's who I identify with? So when you have those kind of discussions and those kind of interactions about this person, how do you feel about me? So and that's when I start realizing that, okay, even though you can grow up and have afforded these perks of being around this certain type of people, but is it still something in the back of, not saying everyone, but it's still something in the back of their mind that think that it's okay to say those type of derogatory statements. So that's when I first realized that, okay, this is a lot what divides us as well too. So I became more aware, and a lot of relationships that I used, a lot of not just relationships but friendships that I had in the past, I had just to learn how to maneuver through them, because if you felt like that, I just didn't want to take it any further with the friendship, and I just cut it off from where there was, and I just deleted Facebook at that point. So I didn't need that type of in my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy how, like I said, those moments or experiences can really kind of shape just our perspective, or even how we respond to certain things. So, all right, coming to Laria next on this one. So, yeah, what was that moment, or did you have a particular moment? Because you kind of touched on it already, kind of your experience in school, but do you have anything else, or you want to kind of expand on that thought a little more?
Look, I got
And
plenty of stories.
And not the jam.
Jam for the edges. But I think that it's kind of weird because I really grew up in a bubble when I think about it. But my bubble was very diverse because I had church, which was all Black basically. And then when I went to school, it was like predominantly white. And then it was like me and like a couple other people maybe. Even in high school, it was that way. Middle school was like complete opposite. But it was just like I was always, I don't know. I never really was, I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I really wish everybody could be a minority once in their life so they can understand what it feels like. Because to say like, well, I don't have white privilege or whatever, it's a certain thing that you feel as a Black person. And this isn't like I think I'm better than you, or I want something without working for it. It's just like something that you have in you as you grow to know that you're different. And so you move that way. Like when I walk into places, I always look around. I always make sure I know where everything is. I know what's going on. And I don't feel like my white friends have to do that. Like, I just don't think that they have to do that. And it's just because of the society. And so going back to what I was going to say about that was I remember we were going to Sears in Warner Robins, my father, me, and my brother. Ryan, I don't think, was born then. And we were walking in, and this little boy saw my dad and pointed. He was like, "Mom, there goes the N word." And she was like, "Come on." And I was like, "What?"
Whoa.
So we just do like, and my dad was a pastor at the time in Warner Robins. He's like dressed business casual. Like, he wasn't, this gangster off the street or nothing like that. So in my mind, I was trying to rationalize what would make somebody say that. And this is a little kid. So in my mind, I shaped that this had been taught from the parents, because my dad even said his parents been telling him that he's too young to even know what that is. Like, he knows a Black person that's a man is that's what they've taught him. And so he was like, "That's why I teach y'all that that's not the truth, or whatever." And so we just kept going. And it was so matter of fact with him. He just said something to us and we just kept going like nothing had happened. And I was sitting there the rest of the day like, "I can't believe that. Are you not bothered?"
Right.
So it kind of taught me like, and if my dad were alive today, he probably wouldn't even ever remembered it, because he grew up in a time where that was kind of normal. And so, but for me, it was very traumatic. I'm like, what? Like, why would you say that? He didn't do anything to you, but it was a kid and it was a learned thing. So it taught me really early to bounce back from racism, wipe it off, act like it never happened, keep going, and I don't think that that's a good thing, all the time. But at some point you have to make things other people's issue and not your own. And, and I think that's what he did. But I'll never forget that, because I was just looking like, "Oh my God," because I'm thinking, who do we tell? Who do we talk to? It's got to be somebody in HR.
911.
But yeah, so that was my experience. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so as you guys are talking, I've been sitting here thinking, like, I don't remember if it was like a pivotal moment, but again, I've kind of mentioned before, like, I grew up in Mississippi, so I mean, we all know the notion of like that state, and while although it wasn't that extreme for me, like I said, I didn't grow up, on a farm or anything like that, but I think kind of racial identity and just awareness was always just at the forefront. And so I was always aware that things were different between us, and maybe it was due to the history, of the state that I grew up in. But I mean, even as a child, like, I was always aware that there were differences between white and Black. You kind of even notice, certain subtleties as far as, even your grandparents, like even code switching back then, like how they talked and how they interacted, it was always different. And so I think I kind of was always aware of that. Even hearing, like I said, my parents, went to segregated schools, so like just always hearing these things, always being aware and conscious of those things, it was really just always at the forefront of kind of my childhood experience. Like I said, I've been trying to think about a particular instance, but I just can't really think of anything right now. But as far back as I can remember, I just always knew that, I mean, there was a stark contrast between like white and Black, and that there were certain things that you didn't do and certain things that you weren't allowed, and it was purely based off of your skin color. And like I said, it's just really unfortunate, but like that was just the reality that I kind of had, during that time period. And like I said, I grew up in the '80s. I mean, it wasn't bad extremely, but like I said, it's just the history. Like I said, I'm talking about my parents' experiences and my grandparents. Like I said, it wasn't that far removed. Like we always talk about this, like these things weren't that far or that long ago. Like these were kind of relevant, even within our generation and our time period. So yeah, things were a little different. So
Mhm.
That's true.
yeah. Any other points, any other topics you guys want to talk about or touch on this book, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates? Like I said, again, good selection, really just a letter to his son, kind of conveying his experiences and really kind of showcasing that, hey, this is my experience. I want you to kind of have the lessons learned and the wisdom, but I also want you to know that this doesn't have to be your experience. Like you can be different. Things can be different for you. So any parting words or expressions about this book?
Well, one thing I do want to say, I know he talked about his Mecca, which was his school, and I think that's how I feel as well about when I found my Mecca, which was when I first entered into college, when I started identifying with other people from all walks of life, and you come and you're interacting when you see so many smart and brilliant young Black people, because I did go to HBCU, and that was one of the things, my driving forces of going to HBCU was I just wanted to be and experience more around predominantly us because of my background and my upbringing. I'm sorry, but I think that my Mecca that's how I started identifying with who I am as a person. What thrills me? What do I get excited about? And you just see so many different people, and you just understand so much more. And I just tell everyone, just that experience is just that experience is nothing that I've just taken for granted. Like it just taught me so much as a person. It just built so much of my character, the way I walk and the way I move, even as far as like my work environment. Like I just take everything that I learned in those short 4 years and it just thrusts me into this thing that we call life. So that is my Mecca, and I just do not take it for granted, but that experience that I gained from going to college.
That's good.
Good.
That's good. Yeah. Again, your boy a quote person, man. I think I found it very interesting how Ta-Nehisi, like I said, he went to college and really just, grew this thirst for knowledge and information. And like I said, again, 4 friends in the book, we love books over here. But one of the quotes he had was, "The pursuit of knowing was freedom to me, the right to declare your own curiosities and follow them through with all manners of books." So again, just really finding joy in reading, being able to expand his horizons, his knowledge base through a book.
Mm-hmm.
He also kind of touched on, something we all kind of have in common as well, which is, finding a passion for traveling. Again, getting out here, seeing how different people live, the experience of being in another country that's outside of your own kind of zone or something that you're familiar with, your own environment. So that's kind of another thing that really stood out because his upbringing did shape so much of his life, but he was able to kind of release some of that by just traveling abroad and seeing how others live and not having to be in that same mindset in another country. So I thought that was very telling as well, that even in this process of kind of growth and development, that he saw that things could actually be different in different places, different environments. So
that's true.
All right. So look, good talk, good discussion. We just wrapped up this book from Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. Kind of had our discussion about just racial identity, life experience, growing up being a Black American and what that has meant to us and what those experiences have been for us. And just really having a discussion about that. So again, if you guys haven't already, pick up the book. It's a quick read, quick listen on Audible. If you want to try it out there as well. But just a good selection. And like I said, I really just love the concept of him writing this letter to his son, kind of conveying some of this wisdom in a book format. So good selection for this month. All right. So it's about that time. If you guys are new to the show, our favorite segment, we have it every episode, which we entitle The Rant. From none other than my brother, Mr. Isaiah Tukes. He has 60 seconds uninterrupted. We don't debate. We don't contest. We don't really talk about it. He just speaks from the heart, whatever's on his mind. And we just let him run wild over here on Four Friends in the Book. So, my brother, the floor is yours once again. So, starting now, go.
Over and over again, I'm upset at how these award shows have treated Black women. First, I was very disappointed with the lack of tribute and recognition the Grammy showed Beyonce after she became the most decorated artist in history with 32 Grammys. It should have been a much bigger moment and a celebration for her and her fans around the world. It was extremely disrespectful to Beyonce and all the work that she has done as an artist. Next, Angela Bassett was snubbed yet again at this year's Oscars. Angela Bassett's last Oscar nomination was in 1994. That is almost 30 years without another Oscar nomination before getting this Black Panther nomination. Yet she's still being painted in the news for fighting back tears because she was failing to win. I wouldn't be smiling and clapping either. Angela Bassett should have won an Oscar a long time ago when she played that role in the movie What's Love Have to Do with It. I thought she was even Tina Turner growing up because she played that role so well. It is so disgusting how Black people are treated in film, and it's even more evident from the start. And this comes back from history. In 1940, Hattie McDaniel became the first African-American woman to actually win something, but she could not even accept her awards on stage. She had to be at a no blacks hotel in the very back to even get her award, the 12th Annual Academy Award. And she was even forced to sit in the back at a small table. And I say this from the heart, and I had to remind myself on many occasions, the lack of recognition or validation does not diminish your excellence or impact. Do it because you love it. Do it for the culture. Do it because you actually have a platform and you can inspire people to follow their dreams. And most importantly, do it for you and no one else. And that's that on that.
Okay.
That was good.
Yeah,
We're going to give you a preaching license in a minute.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, we love you, Auntie. Keep doing your thing, regardless of
We love you, Auntie.
regardless of the recognition. You know, you're being recognized by us, and we appreciate the body of work and what you
Yes.
bring to the culture,
Everything.
and the various
Everything.
forms in which you present it. So, yeah, good rant, brother. Good rant.
That was good.
All right. So, Four Friends in the Book just wrapped up our book for this month, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. My boy just killed this rant once again. And so each month we want you guys to keep up with us and read along with us. So Isaiah, tell them about the book we have coming up for next month.
You guys, you have seen this book every single where. It has been on every blog, every Google, every Yahoo, and it even has a Hulu special out right now. And it's the 1619 Project, a new origin story by Nicole Hannah-Jones. You do not want to miss this next episode. L'Oreal, please tell the viewers when they can view our next show.
The third Thursday of every month, right here. And Kim will let you know where you can view us.
Oh, yeah. So we're on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with us. And on social media, make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram.
Of course, and again, we're also on the streaming platform. So your favorite podcasting services, check us out there. Subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. There also. And always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion here on Four Friends in the Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.